Welcome to another live class by Smarter German. Today we will be talking about time. Yeah, not directly, but I will show you how to talk about time in German properly. There's a couple of basics that you ideally should get covered soon. For this presentation, it doesn't matter. I will always provide you with everything you need, and you focus rather on the logic behind the ways that I show to you. So first thing you ideally know is the accusative, whatever that is. Should you work with my everyday German online course, yeah, for learners up until B1, this is one thing that you learn straight away from the very first lesson, also in a way that you are able to use it intuitively. The accusative is basically nothing else but a set of certain articles, or to be more precise, article endings. The small letters in brackets after the articles are the grammatical gender. Yeah, M stands for masculine, N for neuter, F for feminine, pl for plural. Those you will also learn in the first lesson of my everyday German course, which, by the way, the first lesson you can preview for free. Yeah, so check it out. I'll give you the link at the end. Another case to know is the dative, another set of articles. And of course, the all-beloved prepositions. Not all of them, there's only a couple that we use with time information, and of those, the most important ones are these. Don't try to learn them now as a list, yeah, but sooner or later you need to know what these mean. When you talk about time, these are the only possible translations for these prepositions, and maybe an can also mean at times, and you see they're color coded. So anything that's red here in the prepositions, that is to be used with the dative in this context, not in general, really only when you talk about time. And the bis, which is by nature an accusative preposition, has to be used with the accusative, which is why it is blue. And there's this little asterisk just for that reason. So you have two options when you talk about time. One is governed by the accusative. For example, how would you say good day to you, good day sir, or good day madam? One of the first things you learn when you come to Germany or in your German class, that is, guten Tag. And you see here, guten ends in en. And therefore, yeah, it shows you it's accusative. Schönes Wochenende, another accusative. The gender of Wochenende is neuter. Gute Nacht, feminine. Schöne Ferien, nice school holidays. These are all wishes. Whenever you wish someone a good day, a good weekend, a good night, it has to be the accusative version. But let's take a look at the dative variants here, and then you see when to use that one. So dative, these are the endings again. An einem guten Tag. On a good day, yeah, I can run 10 kilometers. Am Wochenende habe ich nichts gemacht. On the weekend, I haven't done anything. And I think in some English variants you say at the weekend. But let's stick with on. I like that. So an means on, you get the idea. In der Nacht, in the night, that is identical to English, in the middle of the night. In den Ferien, during the vacation, during the school holidays, or in the school holidays. So if you take a look at the left column and the right column, can you figure out a rule as to when to use the dative with information about time? And you might notice that on the right column, in the right column, you always have a preposition ahead of that information, and that is the key. So whenever you use a preposition with an information about time, you have to use the dative, which you can see, is represented in the ending. So let's take a look at the accusative. Den is contained in guten, schönes, gute, schöne. And you see the endings of the articles correspond with the ending of the adjectives here. The same in dative. And there's one specialty, am. Am is short for an dem. That's all. On the weekend. In der und in den are the main articles for feminine and plural in dative. So there's, it's very clear that how this relates to each other. Then there's adjectives. The two most important ones are letzt and nächst, last and next. And let's take a look at an example in accusative. Letzten Monat, last month. Letztes Wochenende, last weekend. Letzte Nacht, last night. Letzte Ferien, last school holidays. So you see that the adjectives in accusative take the article endings, but only in the context of talking about time. And you see this here one more time to make this clear. Dativ. Here the endings again. Im letzten Monat, am letzten Wochenende, in der letzten Nacht, in den letzten Ferien. You see we have prepositions here again, and I've added the in. And what you might notice is that letzten always ends in en. That is because adjectives in dative generally end in en. There's very few exceptions, and those exceptions do not matter at least until you are far in B2. So, just to highlight them a bit, and let's take a look at the corresponding articles. Im is short for in dem, you might have guessed that. Am, an dem again, and in der, in den are again very clearly relating. Good. A couple of examples after we talked about the prepositions. If you use the prepositions or the version with the prepositions, sometimes you have to, but very often you don't have to, which I will show you in a minute. You have to use an with the days of the week. Am Samstag, am Montag, am Dienstag, and so on. With the word Wochenende, am Wochenende. With the times of the day, like am Morgen, am Mittag, am Abend, but not with Nacht, because with Nacht you have to use in der Nacht. You use also in with the word Woche, in der Woche. You use in with Monat, im Monat, and of course, if you use it with Monat, you also use it with the months' names, im April, im Oktober, im Dezember. Yeah, these two are the main ones, and you will have to use them quite often, but most of the time you actually don't have to use them. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. For example, ich bin nach Berlin gefahren. Let's add some time information. Last Saturday. So ich bin letzten Samstag nach Berlin gefahren. The double X here just indicates there is no preposition ahead, so we have to use the accusative. With the preposition, we would get am letzten Samstag. Now, if you take a look at the Samstag, it contains the am. That is a little memorization trick. Am Samstag. So that helps you to remember that weekdays have to be used with am. And if you take a look at the translation, there is no translation here. So I went to Berlin last Saturday. Whether you use the first or the second variant doesn't matter, the meaning is the same. So my recommendation is to use the blue version, because you don't have the preposition, you don't have to worry about an article, and letzten is easy to remember, especially when you work with my everyday German online course. A next example, I will go to Berlin. Now let's move forward in time. Last Saturday was the past, now let's talk about this Saturday. The word for this is diesen. Ich fahre diesen Samstag nach Berlin. I'm going to Berlin this Saturday. Ich fahre an diesem Samstag nach Berlin. Again, there is no difference. Use the first variant. It's the better form. So let's take a look at ich fahre nach Berlin, the future, and the future is the next Saturday. So ich fahre nächsten Samstag nach Berlin, am nächsten Samstag nach Berlin. Make your life easy. If you have a choice, go for the accusative. Yeah, unless you have somehow a fable for the dative. Feel free to use it, but I wouldn't. Here the translation is just for you to digest. A couple of more examples. For example, ich bin nach Berlin gefahren. So again, last week. Ich bin letzte Woche nach Berlin gefahren. Ich bin vor einer Woche nach Berlin gefahren. Basically the same information. If you take a look at the translation, I drove to Berlin last week for the first line. I drove to Berlin a week ago. Of course, there is a slight difference, but hey, I think it's negligible in this. Yeah. So it's important that you understand the version with the preposition, but if you have to use it, use the easy version. Another example, ich bin nach Hause gefahren. I drove home a week later. With a preposition that could look like this. Ich bin nach einer Woche nach Hause gefahren. I went home after 1 week, or after a week. So again, you see there is a marginal difference here. And you might indeed have to make that difference, but hey, why not? Ich bin eine Woche später nach Hause gefahren. Everyone would understand that and it even sounds good. Last example, ich fahre nach Berlin. In the future, next month, I will go to Berlin. Or instead of nächsten Monat, you could say in einem Monat, in a month from now. So let these examples sink in. I will create some exercises for this so that you can decide how to express that differently. And a couple of more examples to finish this. I am in Urlaub, just to show you how the different prepositions that I have shown to you in the beginning are used. Ich bin im Urlaub, I'm on vacation. So, ich bin bis nächste Woche im Urlaub. I'm on holiday until next week. No magic here. This is the only exception. Yeah, it's the only time you have a preposition and still are allowed to use the accusative, because bis is by nature an accusative preposition. But you could also say, ich bin ab nächster Woche im Urlaub, which has a completely different meaning. I'm on holiday from next week onwards. Yeah, so here we cannot choose. You actually have to use the right preposition. One last example. I'm now living in Berlin. So ich wohne jetzt, let's say, 1 year in Berlin. I'm living in Berlin for a year now. And you can use the magic word seit einem Jahr in Berlin, and you get the same translation. There's one thing, you would have been tempted most likely to use the word für, for. I've been living in Berlin for a year now. That's why I have put a little asterisk there. Never use für when talking about time. Yeah? While there is certainly a way to do so, you never use that. You will abuse it 99% of the times, and therefore this is illegal. So if you're tempted to say for a month, for a day, or for 5 days, or for 5 years, just don't say the für. Just use the first variant. Ich wohne ein Jahr in Berlin. Ich wohne jetzt ein Jahr in Berlin. The jetzt makes it a bit smoother. This is it. Vielen Dank für deine Aufmerksamkeit. Yeah, thanks for your attention. If you like this presentation, check out our Everyday German online course. You can check it out for free. Yeah, the first lesson is completely previewable. Scroll down to the curriculum. You have a 30-day money-back guarantee after purchase even. So no risk at all. If you enter the coupon live class, you get a 10% discount on the single payment, not on the payment plans. And if you really like Smarter German and want to do me a nice favor, or you think I've earned it, a good review on Facebook and Google is always welcome. If you have some complaints or something you feel I should improve, I would appreciate if you did this in person with me, like write me an email at least or comment somewhere. Do not do this in a review, because that can really harm everything. Yeah, so please feel free, don't sell anything, just share your experience and how you feel with Smarter German and why you like it. That is convincing, that is what generates trust, and this is all I need and want to. Yeah, so people have a chance to check things out themselves. There is one thing though, a little bonus for you. Even the Germans cannot agree on this. Let's say you want to say today is Sunday the 15th, and you will explain to someone, you want to explain to someone when you go to Berlin. Yeah, or someone asks you, hey, when will you go to Berlin? So when you say, ich fahre diesen Samstag nach Berlin, that's very clear. That means this Saturday, the one that is ahead of you, right ahead of you. No problem. I'm going to Berlin this Saturday. Yeah. the 21st. Yeah, 6 days further. But if you say, I go next Saturday, ich fahre nächsten Saturday, nächsten Samstag nach Berlin, what date would you think he or she is talking about? The Germans cannot agree. Something that it's the 21st, they talk about something. Next means the one in the week after the one that is beginning right now, or yeah. So if you want to be sure and someone says, let's meet next Saturday, you always ask them for the date. Yeah, am wievielten. This is what you've learned in the last live class, which you will find in my everyday German course. Yeah. So careful with next, it's a bit tricky. There is a workaround. You could say, ich fahre kommenden Samstag nach Berlin. So you understand that already without the translation. I'm going to Berlin coming Saturday. Yeah, or the coming Saturday. So the one that's coming is, yeah, the 21st. There's no discussion about that. So again, the Germans, there is no clear rule. The Germans argue about it and they always have to make sure. So maybe just avoid it. Yeah, don't say next Saturday. Say diesen Samstag or Saturday the 21st or the 27th. Okay, that's it. And see you soon. Viel Vergnügen weiterhin mit deinem Deutsch.